I did want to record today's meeting as well and send this out for anybody who wasn't able to attend. So on the PDF, I think these will be links, these pictures here. So I'll link to our website for this page, and then a link to the registration form. So if anybody's still looking for that information. So our practice organization, and we're going to take this week by week. So we kind of have an overall plan, but we want to be able to adjust and kind of go week by week depending on how things go, maybe new guidance. You know, there's just not a lot known for far into the future. And we, to be honest, we as a coaching staff, we don't even know how this is going to go next week. So we have a plan for next week, and the same plan may apply to the following week. But we want to go week by week, and make changes if we have to. You know, if something doesn't make sense, if something doesn't work, if we get told, you know, by the district that, hey, we need to change this, we just want to be able to have that flexibility. And I think that's going to be important not only now, but going into the season. Our flexibility is going to be pretty important. So players will be assigned to a group. Actually had been working on that all week, and then today we got some news that the numbers in the group can change. We were told 9 players per coach, but today it came out that we could do 10 players per coach. So I need to modify that, adjust that a little bit. I'm still holding off on that to send that out just in case we get some more people who sign up. But I'll send that out, you know, maybe tomorrow, but I'll probably hold off until at least Sunday to send that out. And so each group or each player will be in a group, and then for that day, they'll be kind of assigned to a coach, but actually the groups are going to rotate to each coach. Players must stay in the same group, okay, during the 2-week time period. So whatever group they're assigned in, that's the group they're going to be in those whole 2 weeks. So there won't be any, you know, moving players around, you know, changing players around. It's whatever group you're assigned in, that's the group you have to stay in. The groups will rotate throughout the week, which means that not all the groups will be able to practice every day. We're on, you know, a capacity limit of 10 players per available coach. Not all of our coaches are available every single day that will be out there. And we had a great response to registration for practices for the next 2 weeks. So that means that we have to rotate the groups throughout the 2 weeks on different days. So I think for the most part, everybody's going to practice at least 3 days per week. The middle school players will probably only go twice per week. We're going to place a little bit of a priority with the high school guys. I just think that's the most fair. But I think everybody else will get at least 3 days per week. Group schedule will be sent out over email, posted on social media, and we are only allowed to do individual training. So that means, you know, and this is coming from Fayette County Public Schools. So, you know, this is a little bit different from the state, especially starting June 29th, and a little bit different than KHSAA. Fayette County Public Schools kind of wants us to start as far as practice goes and what we're allowed to do. They want us to start like we are starting on June 15th. So, and they are not allowing us to share equipment at all. So, you know, players can't share any of equipment. We can't pass the ball back and forth. No goalkeeper training the hands. And then obviously we have to keep everybody apart from each other. So as coaches, we're going to make sure that we define space throughout the practice so that players stay apart. But it's also important that the players, you know, really take that seriously and they follow, you know, what we're asking them to do. You know, it'll be really important as we start here that we're doing what we're told, so that we don't have to slow down, we don't have to pause, we don't have to take any steps back. So arrival and departure. So this will be very important. This is probably the biggest thing out of all of this because, you know, the rest of it kind of falls on the coaching staff as far as like how we're designing practices and you know, we'll be able to help the players out. But all players must enter at the front gate on Reed Lane. So nobody can walk in the back gate like I know some players do. If it's easy for them to walk to the stadium that way, all players must enter at the front gate. Players who drive must park in the bus parking lot behind the school. So I have a map that's going to show some of this here in a second. But if players are driving themselves, they have to park in the parking lot behind the school and then walk around to the front gate using the sidewalk by the gyms. And Fayette County Public Schools is saying no carpooling is allowed at all right now. So please make sure that nobody is doing that. Players can be dropped off at the front gate. Only players are going to be permitted to come inside the stadium. They do not want anybody who's not involved with the school or with the practices to be inside the stadium. And all players must stay in the car until practice start time. So our start time is 8 p.m. You know, we can't have players coming out and hanging out at 7:45. They need to stay in their car, where it's their car, parents' car, until 8 p.m. start time. So that means that, you know, we're not going to be able to start practice at 8 p.m. It's going to take a while to do this whole check-in procedure before we can actually start. And the girls team is ending at 7:45. So one of the reasons we can't get out before 8 is because we have to give them time to completely clear the field, get out, so there's no crossover between programs. So check-in will be at the front gate. Every player must line up 6 feet apart at the front gate. So we'll try to help with that. You know, the whole staff will be part of the check-in procedure, but there will be one coach who will do a temperature check, and this will rotate, and then another coach will record kind of daily log that we're being asked to fill out. Basically just and I have this on the slideshow here in a second, but it's basically just, you know, the general questions related to COVID-19. So if a temperature is over 100.4, a player will not be allowed to practice. They'll have to be sent home. So parents, if you guys are dropping off your players, please make sure that they check in and they are approved to practice before you leave. After check-in, players must immediately move to their assigned space. And a little caveat to this is I found out today that it looks like we're probably going to have some hand sanitizing stations both at the entrance and the exit of the field. So where the players enter and where the players exit. And so I think that will also be requiring them to wash their hands immediately after they check in. And then they'll go to their assigned space on the field per their assigned group. So that'll be sent out, you know, over email. We'll just put a map of the field and say, okay, group 1 is in this space, group 2 in this space, and so on and so on. And then as soon as they check in, you know, they can't hang out, wait for their friend, and walk to the field with them, you know, like they normally would. They got to go straight to their space, and then there'll be a defined space for putting your bags down, and then there'll be defined space for whatever your group might be doing at that part of the field. And then for departure, everybody's going to leave through the back gate only, so nobody's going to be able to leave through the front gate. So player pickup can take place in the back parking lot, bus parking lot, or along Spring Hill Drive, along the road out the back of the stadium. So on the left here is basically the checklist we run through with the players, asking them if they have any of these things. You know, right now, you know, it's just important that we're very careful. So the thing that I will say is, and this is what they're basically telling people who work, is if you have anything, you know, if you're sick at all, just stay home for that day. You know, I know the kids really want to get out there. They want to play. We want to be out there. We want to play. And the same thing is going to go for the coaches. Like if any of us are sick, have any symptoms at all, even if we think it's something minor and not related, we're just not going to be able to participate. Unfortunately, that would affect, you know, a group if that happens, but that's just the way it is right now. So the checklist on the left there is what we'd run through every single player as they run in, as they come in. And then on the right is kind of a visual of where arrival is at the front gate, departure at the back gate. And then this is the parking lot behind the school where players can park, where the pickup will be after practice once players leaves. And this line here is the walking path for where players can walk in. So we don't want players parking back here and then walking in through the back gate, because there will be girls soccer players leaving through the back gate. They need to walk around the front. So it's always kind of one-way traffic the way we're doing this. And football's doing the same thing. Girls soccer is doing the same thing. So we just wanted everybody to kind of follow the same protocol as far as entering and leaving the field. All right, practice requirements. So no sharing of any equipment. So that means a ball too. So players have to bring their own ball. Bags and other equipment, they have to be separated. I know a lot of times, when we practice, the guys will get together and just throw all their bags down right next to each other. That's not going to be allowed at this time. It's going to have to be very intentional to where players are keeping their bags apart from each other. And we'll do our best to define that space during the practice. A water bottle must be brought by a player. So none of the, common water sources will be provided. No water fountains, no water trees, nothing like that. We've been told that restrooms and locker room, I know locker rooms for sure not be open. I've also been told that the bathrooms won't be open. If there's emergency, obviously we can handle that, but the players need to make sure that they're going before they come to practice. They can't, I know a lot of times, sometimes they'll come to practice and it's like one of the first things they do. Just make sure that the players understand that the bathrooms are not open for general use, at least not at this time. Players must bring their own ball and you only use their ball during practice. Okay, so no changing of balls or using somebody else's. If your ball gets away from you and somebody else's ball gets away from you, you can't just switch balls, and because it's the quickest thing to do. You have to stay with your own ball the whole time. No contact is allowed, so handshakes, hugs, fist bumps, any of that stuff, none of that is allowed. And players must wear a face covering when arriving and departing the field. So what that means is, as they're waiting to be checked in and walking to the field, they need to have a face covering on, whether it's a mask, a gaiter, whatever it is, they need to have something over their face. And then as soon as practice is over, they need to put their face covering back on as they leave the field. So this is taken directly from Fayette County Public Schools. I sent this out over email. It was the press release that came out from the superintendent. And these are just the expectations as far as, your family goes. There might be more that comes of this, that comes out in the following weeks. Not 100% sure, but they may have some more details on some of these things. So there's nothing new here. This is just a straight screenshot from the press release that came out. And then the same thing for athlete expectations. And the thing that I added there at the bottom, a little note, is that if we have players coming to practice acting like they're not going to really follow the rules, they're just going to do whatever they want. We're not going to be able to allow those guys to be at practice. There's a lot being asked of us, and there's a lot of information in here, and we've got to make sure that we do it right. We only have one opportunity to do it right the first time. And in order to keep moving forward, to keep progressing, it's important that we really do everything that's being asked of us, even if it's not something we agree with. It's not something, that we don't like, and we don't like most of this stuff. If we think it's not necessary, whatever it is, it's important that the players are really understanding what the expectations are. And the thing that I would pass on to a lot of the players is look around at other sports throughout the country, pro teams in different sports, college programs in different sports. They're getting shut down because they're having multiple players test positive, and sometimes it's being traced to to social events, or not taking things seriously, maybe going out when they're not supposed to be going out, and they're having to get shut down, or they're not able to participate in a tournament or whatever it is. So it's really important that the players understand the expectations, because that's the way we get to move forward. I'm sure that the district would have no problem shutting down a specific team, a specific program, if they felt like um, that they weren't following what they were being asked. So that's really important going forward. uh, so a couple things on the chat um, brought to my attention. So if a player does not have their own ball, we can provide one. We just have to make sure we sanitize it, and then that player only uses that ball the rest of the time, for those 2 weeks. So we can make sure that happens if a player needs a ball, if that's a problem. Bringing your own hand sanitizer, that's a expectation of each individual from the district. There's supposed to be, actually, I know there will be hand sanitizing stations at the field. But in here where it says to bring your own hand sanitizer, that's for more like during practice, or, just to have it on hand in case you need to, clean your hands for whatever reason. So, for example, maybe you touch somebody else's equipment, or, you had some direct contact with somebody by accident or something like that, you know, then you could have some on hand that you could use on your own. And if you didn't want to use the hand sanitizer that's provided by the school, you just want to use your own, you're more than welcome to do that as well. So I would understand. All right. So I just wanted to throw this in here to make sure um, everybody kind of understands what we're being asked to do. And I need to change this one part in here about the 9 players, but and there's a lot more to it than just this, especially when it comes to designing practices and exercises and things like that. But we are being required to check in all players at the front gate, and then we have to record everybody's data. We will be wearing a face covering the entire time. That is a requirement for us as coaches, to wear it during the whole time we're at practice. We will be sanitizing and washing all equipment used during practice. We will have to keep our distance from everybody. We'll have to make sure that all paperwork is up to date, so keeping a log of that and making sure everybody has their physical. So like I said before, I can update that to where we can coach 10 players at one time. No shared equipment at all times. And then, we have to enforce what's being asked of us from the state, KHSAA, and Fayette County Public Schools. And it's going to be important that we remind the guys every single day, like, hey, this is what's being asked. Let's do it. Let's do it right. This is the way we get back to playing normally the quickest. If we make this a difficult thing, then it may just slow us down. It may take a little bit longer to get to playing normally again. Okay, so a couple other things on the chat. It's a good question here about coming late. So if you're running late, or something happens to where you're running late, or need to run home because you forgot something, something like that, yeah, you can still come to practice. It's just you can't just jump into practice. You're gonna have to be checked in before you can be allowed to practice. So you'll have to come in, just try to track down a coach in the most safe way possible, and then we will make sure to check you in and take your temperature. Make sure that we do that. So yeah, it's a good question. But as long as we follow the guidelines, that's not a problem. Homemade hand sanitizer, that's fine. That's fine for you to use. I don't really care what you use. If you're bringing something individually, we'll provide what what we're going to have on site from the school and from the district. So whatever you guys want to bring, or for whatever you're comfortable using on your own, that's fine. All right. I think that is it on our protocol for practice for the next 2 weeks. So if anybody has any other questions, feel free to throw them into the chat. If anybody has any questions, after this, feel free to send me an email, just, or send me a message, and we can figure it out. I know that there's a lot of information here, and it's going to take some time to make this like a routine, it's going to have to be a routine, at least for 2 weeks. And it's, there'll be a learning curve here for the coaching staff as well, because this will not be normal to us at all. So just make sure we understand we're going to have some patience. It's going to take us a while, especially those first few days, to probably get players checked in, until we kind of get the hang of it. And we only have one thermometer to take temperatures. So unfortunately, we will not be able to have multiple coaches doing that. So that's going to take a little bit. When we're going to have probably like 5 or 6 groups every single time that we're going to be practicing. So that's 50 to 60 kids that are going to be out there potentially on a given night. So it will take a little while to check everybody in and get going. But the important thing is that we're able to get back out in the field. The players are able to see each other again, get around each other again, even though it's a little bit different. And we're gonna, as coaches, we understand that this is just a very initial first step, and it's important that we take this gradually. While some of the guys may have been pretty active over the past few months, there's probably a lot of players who haven't been, and so we need to make sure that we're not doing too much too fast, and which could lead to an injury. So at the same time, please encourage your players to listen to their bodies when we get started. I know that there's probably going to be a lot of excitement from some of them, and so it's important that if they're like, man, I know I didn't do a whole lot over the past few months, and I can feel it, that they're being responsible and being sure to, if they need to stop, if they need to, step out, take a break, whatever it is, that they're doing that. It's not a big deal. This is just the start of getting back into it. All right. Well, I don't see any other questions on the chat. Like I said, I'll send this out on a PDF, and I will also send out the video here that I'm recording, and send that to everybody. Put it on YouTube so that people can watch it if they need to, for any additional information. All right. Well, I appreciate everyone taking the time tonight, and we really look forward to seeing the guys starting next week. I'll be looking for the groups to be emailed out, and then also the schedule about which groups are practicing when. And when it comes to the groups, just so everybody knows, the easiest way to do that was basically by grade. So all the players are going to be divided pretty close to by grade. There'll be some mixing and matching here based on some schedules of individual players, but it's mostly going to be seniors, juniors, sophomores, freshmen. It's just going to be down from the seniors on down. So that was the easiest way to do it. And actually worked out pretty well. All right. Well, we will see you guys next week. Thank you guys for stopping by.